Hi YouTube, today I've got a bike review video for you. This is my Specialized Tarmac SL2. I bought it in 2013 at a reduced price because it was the year before's model, so I believe it's a 2012 Specialized Tarmac SL2. Full carbon fibre chassis, carbon fork, comes with a carbon seat post, and the rest is Specialized on finishing kit. So you've got, up front you've got an aluminium stem, alloy handlebars, mixed match of soda, grip set and FSA crankset. Right, I've modified the bike a little bit in the last 5,000 mile. I'll talk you through the standard equipment that came with it, and then I'll move on to the modifications. Right, so up front we've got Soda 9-speed shifters. These are the old version without the internal routed cables. That's the one gripe I have with the bike. There's one gripe I have with the grip set, sorry. Although it is only cosmetic, it's only a slight thing. I'll wait for them to wear out before I change them. It comes with a mid-compact FSA Gossamer crankset. That's 5236 up front. Shimano Soda rear mech. And a Shimano Soda front mech as well. The original cassette that was on there was an 1126, which was a pretty aggressive setup, but then again it is designed as a fast race bike from the ground up. I'll talk you through some of the modifications now. The bike originally came with an Axis 1.0 wheel set, which was okay, lasted about 1,000 miles. Quite a heavy wheel set as well. It's quite strong to be fair, but it didn't suit the bike, it didn't flatter it in any way, shape or form. So they had to be upgraded. I swapped them out for these Mavic Cosmic Carbon clinches, as you can see here. Medium range fast wheel set, pretty fast roll on a low. I don't believe you see any gains over a standard rim until over about 20-25 miles an hour. Nevertheless, solid wheel set. Came with Mavic's own tyres. I normally run GP 4000s S2s, but because I got them free, obviously decided to run them. I haven't had any complaints over 1,000 mile on them now. That's a puncture free 1,000 mile, I might add. Grip seems perfectly okay with a little roll faster with the Michelin's on. Only time will tell. When these wear out I'll swap them and I'll let you know. The brake set that came with the bike, Axis front and rear, do a perfectly decent job. I've since upgraded the pads, they wore out. I changed the pads the same time as the wheels. I went with Swiss stock BXB aluminium pads, for aluminium rims I should say, and they're excellent. I couldn't recommend them enough, to be fair. That's a really good brake pad. Tons of power, tons of modulation, just what you need. They do fade a little bit in the rain, which I was told they were especially good for the rain. My experience, they're pretty much exactly the same as any other brake pad, any other rim brake pad in the rain, i.e. when you hit the brakes you've got to displace the water a little bit before they start to bite. They do seem a little more sluggish at displacing the water and biting in the rain rather than the Shimanos that I normally run. However, when they do bite, they bite strong and they bite well. So I can forgive that initial feeling. Recently, well I say recently, earlier this year, did the Fred Whitten Sportive, which if you're familiar with it, you know goes over the Hard Knot and the Rhinos Pass of the Lake District in the UK. So I needed to get the biggest cassette possible on the back of the bike, which is this. It's a mountain bike cassette. Ratios are 11:36 in 9-speed, and that's paired with the standard crankset 5236, meaning my first gear is 1:1 ratio of 36 driving a 36. That was just adequate to get me up the Hard Knot Pass. 31%, managed to get up without walking, pretty happy with that. The derailleur I swapped out. I went from, the original was a Soda, but it was a Soda short cage, so swapped it out to this, the Soda medium cage, in order to run that bigger gear. However, whoops, just get that balanced. However, I found that the I found that wasn't big enough because the maximum capacity, the maximum cog this derailleur can handle is 32, so I had to do a little bit of a botch. Don't know if you can see that there. I've got the cable, I've got the chef cable tied rigid to the chainstay, the seat stay, sorry. I won't go into that too much detail as it's a bit long-winded, but basically that allows me to run the B-tension screw all the way out. You can see that there. It allows me to run the B-tension screw pretty much all the way out, which gives me super smooth shifting on the bottom rings, on the higher gears, but it also gives me plenty of B-tension on the 36 for climbing. What modifications have we got? The saddle. You'll know from a previous video if you've been watching that I've recently fitted this for long distance riding to try and get it as comfortable as possible. It's the Brooks Cambium C17. This is just a demo saddle, but I've decided to actually buy one. I think I'll go for a different colour. I'll probably go for the C17 Cambium in brown with the carved channel out here to release the pressure on the old gooch. Other modifications are pretty standard. We've got the Garmin out front mount, pretty ubiquitous. That's just a little GoPro cage. I find that quite handy actually. I usually don't do much rolling video on the bike. What I'll do is when I'm riding along, I'll just flick this open, take the camera out, take selfies with it, take videos of friends I'm riding with, scenery, etc, etc. And then I'll usually bring them home and take stills off those. It works much better than taking video for me. Talk you through the chain. I don't know whether you can see in this light. It's actually gold coloured. That's just a little bit silly. I didn't buy it because it was gold, I bought it because it was on discount chain reaction cycles, and also because it's a lighter chain than standard. I don't know whether you can see there if it's focused. The rivets are actually hollow and the side plates are hollow. It's a KMC XL Light 9-speed. It's normally a pretty expensive chain, but as everybody's gone to 10 and 11 speed, the price of the 9-speed components have come down, which is great news for us that are still running 9-speed. I see no reason to upgrade, as the amount of gears doesn't affect how fast you can ride. It's the ratios that matter. You can see the side plates and the rivets are drilled, so you save a few grams. Other than that, the rest of it is just cosmetic gold chain, which actually when it gets a bit dirty actually looks rusty. So you sort of lose that cosmetic benefit, but I'm not too fussed about that. Cheapo Shimano pedals that I got with the bike. Didn't have much cash at the time, so put these SPDSLs on. Not touched them, not serviced them. 5,000 mile later. Tiny little bit of play in them, but not an issue. Don't have a bad word to say about them. They look a little bit cheap for what they are, and they're probably a little bit heavier than the Ultegras and the Dura-Race. But honestly, 5,000 mile, no issues. Not much you can say about that for about £25 for a set of pedals. I've got the Specialized bottle cages here. Didn't get those straight away. I went with Elite bottle cages. Couple of sets of Elite bottle cages I found. I kept breaking them. They kept fracturing and dropping the bottles, so decided to spend a little bit of cash on a decent set. Other than that, there's not that much modified on it. It's pretty standard. I say it doesn't get the most use of all my bikes. I've done 5,000 miles since 2013. I find it's not. I've got a Specialized delay as well. Standard came in about 9 kilos. This came in about quarter of a kilo lighter. So for a carbon bike, I was expecting it to be a lot lighter than that, and I was a bit disappointed, to be fair. I do find the comparison between carbon and aluminium, the main difference is the feel. Carbon's a lot more comfortable, takes a lot more road buzz out, dulls the shocks a little bit, and it does feel stiffer and more direct to ride. Whether that's a placebo is anybody's guess, but it does feel faster. Not massively faster, but faster all the same. I used to have this stem pretty slammed. Well, slammed for me. Basically it was down about 5mm from where it is now, and I didn't have it in this position. I had it pretty much, well, not level, but angled down slightly. The stem's actually quite a cool feature. You see this stem head cap here with a plus and minus on. Basically what that means is it's a 4-position stem. Now obviously you can flip the stem from the position it's in now to facing down, but in addition to being able to flip the stem, you actually have an eccentric spacer in the stem cap here, which can be rotated, which is what your plus and minus donates, and it gives you 2 positions of it gives you 2 angles of attack, if you like, of the stem position. So basically that's the highest. You could have it a couple of degrees lower, I don't know the actual number, but you could have it a couple of degrees lower, and then obviously you could flip it over and you'd have 2 lower positions. So it's actually quite good for getting a good fit on the bike. That's a 4-position stem. And I think that's it. I've not had any major issues or problems with the bike itself. Issues have always been down to components wearing out and such, but you'll always have that. Yeah, so I'll wrap this up now. Oh, just before I do, you'll notice all this here looks faded. It's not faded, it's actually covered it in sellotape. The type of roads I ride, occasionally mud and gravel tracks. I was worried about chain slap when I first got the bike, with this being carbon and not metal. I didn't want any damage to the actual carbon layup underneath, however unlikely that may have been. So I just decided to cover it in sticky tape, and it's actually lasted up quite well, so I've decided to leave it on there. You can see here some remnants of some red duct tape, which I've used to protect the bottom bracket area from dropping the chain. I've never dropped the chain in using it, so that's never had to be used. Sod's law dictates, though, if I took it off, the first thing that happens I'd probably drop the chain. I'll tell a lie, I have had a problem with the bike. Well, actually the component. This is my first bike for BB30 bottom bracket. This is quite attention hungry, as anyone with a BB30 bracket will probably know. Ran the bike for about 1,000 miles. I was on a Sportive. It started creaking, or actually knocking. It sounded quite dramatic. It'd knock on every pedal rotation. Got it home, stripped it down, found nothing wrong with the actual bearings inside. Actually pulled the rubber seals off the bearings, couldn't find anything wrong with the actual ball bearings. The bearing races themselves, so I just re-greased it and put it back together. Knocking was gone. I found that knocking returns every 1,500 to every 1,000 to 1,500 miles, depending on the type of weather the bike's used in. To be honest, I think it's a pretty poor design, the BB30. Whether this just has a cheap set of bearings in it, I don't know, or it's the cranks are cheaply machined or whatever. I much prefer the standard external or even internal bottom brackets from a reliability standpoint anyway. I think that's everything, so I'll wrap up now. Thanks for watching. There's a video of my tarmac. Any questions, just leave it in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for taking the time to watch.